one of the thinkers that I'm most concerned with, Wilhelm von Humboldt, based his idea of individuality on the classical notion of weaving together all of the aspects of the human being, the aesthetic, the moral, the economic, the political, into a well-rounded personality, developing all aspects of the self, integrating them into a unique way, into a unique personality. And he saw this as based in the classical idea of the citizen. The limitations of that were that the citizen for him was only one model, one identity. And he thought that what that did was to make uniqueness, individuality, impossible. And his argument essentially was that it was modernity that made possible the full flowering of the human personality. But for him also, this ideal was pitched against another notion of the self in modern times, one that was quite different from the classical notion of the citizen, and that is the individual motivated by self-interest, by material self-interest. One of the things that we see in the period just before the revolution, really in the century and a half before the revolution, is the validating of self-interest, which was valid neither in classical nor in Christian thought. And so this idea of individualism underlies a good deal of modern ideas of rights, for example. For people like Humboldt and after him John Stuart Mill, individualism was an important and valid idea, but they saw it as a very limited notion of personality. And what they wanted to do is bring in the classical and aristocratic heritage of individuality and pitch that against individualism. And so both of these notions were considered to be valid as ethical strivings for the human being, but they also demanded very different kinds of societies. They demanded, on the one hand, an open society, quite different from the closed polis of Athens, for example, and Republican Rome, demanded a society of modernity, of commerce, of individualism, of openness. But at the same time, they saw this kind of society as really favoring only one model of the human being, the materially self-interested model. And so out of the classical heritage, they tried to modernize a notion of individuality, which would include all of the faculties, but would also not be limited to one model of the person, which could be allowed to develop. But they did see modern commercial society, modern capitalist society, is not a favorable ground for the development of individuality.